mid-50s.
Yeah,
And
51.
you finished jumping about 53, 54.
53.
So what did you do then?
Let's see, what did I do? Dawn, my wife, had done her 1 year of jumping. That's all she wanted to do, and she got a job down in Florida as an FMO on the Waxahachie Reserve. And I went down and visited her, and when I went over and visited the Osceola National Forest ranger, because I heard there was a job opening, and I got an offer. Actually, I got a couple offers, but I took that one. So I became an FMO in the Osceola, and I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then moved over to BIA in their Sacramento office as a fuel specialist, and then out to Hawaii as a FMO for the Army, civilian FMO.
Wow.
And then back to BIA in Arizona where I finished up.
So you retired?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. So now you're doing, what's the organization called that you have?
Fire Research Institute, which I started back in '71, I think.
That's when you had the magazine and you met the guy from Reading?
No, it's a separate organization. And so the International Association of Wildland Fire still exists, and it's big. It's got a board of directors and editors, and it's an international organization, probably 2,000-3,000 members. And my little Fire Research Institute, I just kind of kept that going through the years.
So tell me about that organization, the one that you're doing now. What does it do?
I collect scientific articles and management articles about fire, forest fire, range fire, brush fire, not structural. And then I produce a monthly newsletter of all the new stuff that's come out this month. There's about 2,000 new articles every month. And each month I put those into a big database that's on the internet. And people can search and ask for articles and so on.
So it's pretty noticeable in Montana, the bug kill and the acreage that gets burned since say 2000. What's your thinking on that? I mean, how are things changing because of I guess climate change?
Well, there's no such thing as a disaster, a natural disaster. It's all human, and we're totally implicated in the bug kill issue. And there's no question that that's being caused by fire exclusion. And all the big fires we're having now and uncontrollable fires, they were all predicted in Pinchot's day when he proposed to Roosevelt that they implement the 10 a.m. policy and start fighting fires. People were warning them. They said, if you stop the fires out here in the West, and keep in mind these are Eastern minds at work here, but the Westerners, the editor of the San Francisco newspapers, the big ranchers, were all saying, don't do this because you're gonna have big problems in 100 years. And so here they are.
So what's the way forward? What's your thinking on the way forward?
Let them go.
Just let them burn and try to protect things as you can? Or?
This is because of my experience in Alaska, and it's totally politically unobtainable. But in Alaska, they do point protection. So the fires running across the Alaska wilderness, and we'll set up like we did at Wilderness Lake and protect the structures, let the fire go by, and then set up the next one down the line. And that's a successful strategy. I don't know if it's still practiced. I imagine it is.
Well, I've seen that, and I see how it works, and I think I agree with you. But I'm wondering how the Forest Service, being a bureaucratic organization, it had to begin adjusting just by not started letting burn by just not going there, or not having enough money to go there and prioritizing money or whatever. But do you think that do the smoke jumpers have a role in that new environment, do you think?
I think so. You know, the jumpers develop people to be excellent single resources. And
Now, what do you mean by a single resource?
Okay. So in the beginning of the season, when we're still jumping, we go as a small crew, 2-man or 3-man, whatever. But later in the season, jumping isn't practical anymore because of the size and intensity of these fires. So we start going to fires as single resources, like division supervisor, incident commander, plans chief, whatever the guys have developed in their own deck of cards as far as their qualifications. And so, you know, you go to Missoula and there are a lot of highly qualified people in Reading and all these other bases. Boise particularly takes pride in the developing their firefighters to be incident commanders or whatever, and they're a huge resource to the fire community later in the season when they're not jumping. You know. And even while they're jumping, some of them will spin off and take a 14-day assignment on a fire somewhere as a single resource. So it's just, you know, you're just assigned to the team that's working in the fire as a division supervisor.
But when you first mentioned that single resource, you were thinking of like being out by yourself, like a scout, or
No.
actually fitting into an incident command?
Yeah, that's just a term for, rather than a crew or an engine, you're a single resource, you're a division soup, and an incident commander.
And you think that might be the evolving role for jumpers?
Oh yeah, that's been a strong part of the program since I was jumping.
Yeah.
And I run into jumpers all the time that are doing that later in the season.
Yeah.
And I think they're recognized, you know, hey, we're getting a jumper in as a division soup, and that says something. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, on that point now about, you got into it late in your life, but it was part of your life. I mean, do you have any thoughts about what that jumping experience is, that whole, whatever it is? I mean, what is it to you? What do you think it is? Can you describe it? What it means to be a jumper?
I've never met one that didn't think that was the most important and best part of their life. And so from a personal point of view, it's something that, well, you meet, last night I was having dinner with a guy visiting Leslie. She's at this S130-190 course right now, and there were a couple of little guys there with beards and coffee mugs and shooting the breeze, and we sat down with them, and one of them had a real faded Marine tattoo on his arm, you know, and of course that's all he talked about. The whole meal was Vietnam and Da Nang and this and that. And jumpers are the same way. I think we all just, you know, it's branded on us. And so no matter what you do, you always feel that background and that experience and look at life through that lens.
Did you have, in those 2 years you spent in Missoula, you talked about the Wilderness Lake fire, but did you have some things that just kind of pop out that are like, they really were a personal experience when you were jumping? I mean, that were an unusual experience or something that sticks with you out of all the others?
Yeah. My crash.
What happened?
I think it was a practice jump. And so we were down to a pretty small meadow. And I learned in this jump that when you change direction in your chute, with your chute, you don't know this when you're way up high, changing, moving around, maneuvering. But when you're close to the ground, you learn that it takes a while for the chute to decide to do what you told it to. Now we're talking rounds. And so I'm coming into this meadow and I see this big old pine tree right in my path. So I pull a toggle and I think I'm going to miss this tree. Well, I did manage to turn, but I hit that tree and started sliding. And literally, the the tree collapsed my chute. I should have tried to cap it had I known this was gonna happen. But, I mean, that tree was pretty far away when I started turning, and the chute just, delayed its change in direction. I hit the side of that tree and slid down that tree, and I must have fallen 40 feet. I mean, I was slowed a little bit by the drag on the tree, but not much, and I just came straight down. I mean, I couldn't even do a good roll because it just brought me straight to the ground.
Get hurt at all?
Pardon?
Did you get hurt?
I didn't notice an injury until about a year later, and one of my knees started bothering me, and I went in and did a little orthoscopic surgery on it, torn a meniscus.
So that was your closest to getting treed up.
Yeah.
You can say you didn't get treed up.
Yeah.
That was close.
That was my only injury.
Yeah.
We had one jump where we all went in backwards up around Yellowstone
Because of the wind?
because of the wind. We threw out a streamer and it just blew away. And so we circled around through another one and it just drifted back down. So we thought, okay, first thing in the door. Really windy. He hits the ground and calls back up and says, watch the wind. So the rest of us go out and every one of us went in backwards. And hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Heel, ass, head.
Rang your bell. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I noticed that so the thing